Good morning, my neighbors!
Well, good morning, you sexy mother hubbards. It's time for an alternative paper review. First up to the Daily Express today, guys, and this is going to shock you. The Daily Express are leading with a story where they're wetting their knickers about the number of foreigners coming into Blighty. This can't go on, they say. Over 1 million granted UK visas last year. If they come into the UK and they find work in the labour shortage, in the gig economy, in retail, in the NHS, they earn money, that money is taxed, and that tax money goes into the public services, which should then be able to handle them. Now, if those public services are somehow then unable to support the growth in population, that means that tax money has gone walkies. Yeah! Mind-blowing, isn't it? That means someone's been looting the public purse. I wonder who that could be. Yeah. That's a thinker, isn't it? That's beyond my cognitive ability. I think I'll leave it to the highly prized and prestiged investigative journalists at the Daily Express to figure out. Next up this morning to the Daily Telegraph, who say obesity has overtaken hunger as the biggest threat to global health. So hang on a minute, let me just wrap my head around that. So the biggest threat to human beings globally, throughout the world, used to be hunger. Lots and lots of human beings were dying of hunger. And now the biggest threat to human beings, health-wise, is obesity. So, I mean, we've sort of gone the other way on that one, haven't we? I mean, I am no Bob Geldof. I'm no aid worker. I don't know how that problem was handled, but it feels a bit, sledgehammer hitting a nail, maybe. Like, here's how you know you've got a badly wired brain, right? I read that headline. Obesity overtakes hunger as the biggest threat to global health. And I was like, hang on, did we feed the starving people to the fat people? Like, what the fuck? Over to the Times now. There is nothing to stop another police killer like Wayne Couzens. Now, this follows the reports yesterday that Couzens was reported 8 separate times to the Metropolitan Police for an array of different offences, assaults on children, on women. Like, how anyone with that track record could ever be deemed suitable for a job in the police force is absolutely floor-jawing, isn't it? I mean, typically in society, when you see somebody with that sort of personality and those crimes behind them, they would usually be confined to a career as a Conservative Member of Parliament. Oh, wait, no, that's a bit much. Is it, though? Is it really? Anyway, right, if I might just be a little bit serious for a second. The media reaction to this is actually quite interesting because so much emphasis has been placed on the fact this guy was a policeman, for good reason, because it is thought that he waved his warrant card and he, apprehended Sarah Everard and got her into her car. Like, that was the means of kidnapping her. However, I don't honestly think the fact he was a policeman was the catalyst for him becoming a murderer more broadly. I think somebody with that track record, with that background, with that psychology, probably would have gone on to do it in some capacity anyway. I mean, so much of the outrage is around this, how was he allowed to become a police officer? For good reason, right? It's outrageous that he was ever given a warrant card in the first place. But I think the fact that he was doing these things before he was a police officer is actually quite striking. Like, it wasn't his job that turned him into a murdering rapist. He was already a rapist before he became a police officer. So yeah, I don't think it's outrageous to suggest that escalation would have continued whatever job he had found himself in. The second piece to this, for me, is the focus, understandably, on the police recruitment protocols, right? They should have processes in place that allow them to identify problem candidates ahead of time and then not hire them into the police force. Now, we're told those processes are in place. We still don't really understand why they weren't followed in this instance. But I do think it's really interesting that in a profession, in an industry like law enforcement, where we're expecting the best and the brightest to apply for jobs, we're only paying those individuals, like 30k in London? Maybe it's like a 26k starting salary in London. So what kind of caliber of candidate are you expecting to attract into a career in the police for say 27 grand. It's just a complete non-starter. So I wouldn't be surprised at all. I mean, firstly, with the processes and the protocols, if they were like underfunded through austerity cuts and so on, if that was a factor with this. And equally, I wouldn't be surprised if the concerns around his background were overlooked. You know, I'll just turn a blind eye to it, because they still need to hire people in, and there's only a certain number of applicants that they can get in with the salary at that level. So yeah, not to make everything party political or to attempt to score points, obviously this is a story about misogyny and murder, and nobody is really responsible for Wayne Couzens' actions other than Wayne Couzens. But there is a broader responsibility on the government, on the Conservative Party, if it turns out that austerity and cuts did play a role in this. Like, if you're a Tory who's like, yo, we're going to get more bobbies on the beat, but you're also going to slash funding, you're going to slash funding from the back office area that do these checks.